What's up guys, Phantom here back with episode 31 of my F1 2019 career mode as we are going to Spielberg for the Austrian Grand Prix for round 9 of season 2. But as we go to Austria, there has been some changes as Magnussen is taking over Albon, and Albon is going over to Williams to take over for Kubica, which I think is pretty unfortunate since Kubica's the only one to score points for Williams. Russell, yes, he's probably outperformed Kubica total, but Kubica in the 2 seasons, the season and a half through, has 3 points to Russell's 0. And they're the only reason they have points in the constructors, but we will move on to Austria.
Thank you for joining us once again for today's qualifying session. Sit back, relax, and enjoy what we hope will be a fantastic contest for pole position. And as we wait, poised for the start of what will hopefully be a thrilling qualifying, why don't you tell us, Anthony Davidson, about the things you can do to really get the most out of a car in a session like this?
Well, you're largely limited by the Parc Fermé regulations, of course. Back in the old days, pre-2004, you'd work on both a qualifying setup and a race setup over practice, and then swap them over after qualifying. So the race car was quite different at times to the qualifying car. Nowadays, though, you have to find a compromise that works for both. There are a few things that you can still adjust during the session, such as the differential, the brake bias, and the front wing angle, but that's about it. So it's more about optimizing what you do have and adapting your own style to suit the track conditions.
As we start out here in Q3 after we easily made it through Q1 and Q2 in the dry, it's starting to rain here in Q3 as we have decided to take on the intermediates. It's at that crossover point as we brake here, and we don't have much practice in the rain here. This is going to be the only rain all weekend as we come out here of the final corner as we go in super deep, as we're going to come across the line and finish P2 and end up being P8 at the end of it, just getting beat out by my teammate Butler as Hamilton's on pole as we move on to the race.
What a beautiful backdrop to a motor race. We're here in the Styrian Mountains, of course, and they've watched over some cracking races throughout the history of this Grand Prix. Controversy, of course, think back to 2002, but also great joy. Do you remember Niki Lauda's historic home victory in 1984? It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel and Perez, Butler and a Haas, Weber and Antonio Giovinazzi, Leclerc, Russell, Lando Norris and Stroll, Magnussen, Raikkonen, Nico Hülkenberg and Daniel Kvyat. Albon, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
As we sit here in P8 after a qualifying performance yesterday, as the 5 lights are out and we get a pretty horrible jump here as Giovinazzi is looking down our inside, and he's going to dive bomb us and going to make it 3 wide as we kind of have to lean on our teammate Butler a little bit not to get front wing damage from Giovinazzi. As we come down here to turn 2 and turn 3, as we're going to dive really late in the brakes and think about going down the inside of Vettel, but Vettel was never going to give us any space there as we cut on to the end of lap 1 here against Vettel, as we're going to go down this front stretch here and get a very good slipstream on him, as he's going to go defensive, as we're going to go around the outside as he kind of squeezes off the track there a little bit, as we are able to take P6, as our teammate Butler's around able to go on outside, and he could be possibly looking at us, so we're going to take a little bit of a defensive line in there to make sure we don't get dive bombed from him. As we cut to the next lap here, as Butler's right on our gearbox, as he's going to have DRS down the side straight here, as we're going to go defensive, as he's going to go around the outside of us, as he's going to be a little bit ahead of us, but we're going to dive down the inside and try to keep that position, and we are successfully able to do that, as he's fallen way far behind. As we cut onto lap 4 here, as it looks like they were 3 wide for a second, but Verstappen decided to get out of it, as Perez is fighting for a podium for Force India, which has not had one in this series, as we brake really late and we actually hit and lock up Perez, as Verstappen kind of cuts across us and then doesn't accelerate, as we're going to go around the outside of him in this middle section, as we go a little bit out there, as we get on this curb and we lose the back end and actually hit into Verstappen, who we almost ran into the grass and the gravel. But as we come onto the front stretch here, as Sainz, I don't know, either went defensive or went to attack Perez, was really slow, and so we're going to go around the outside of him, as he kind of squeezes us as we lock up on the curb there, as we go wide, and we're just going to hopefully accelerate, but as we do, we clearly get a illegal overtake, as we kind of lift off, as Butler's going to go to his inside, and we are 3 wide, as we absolutely get run off the track by Sainz there, as Vettel is now going to overtake us, as we dive down the inside to try to minimize our position loss there, as we are able to hold on to it, as Butler is all over Sainz into the last 2 corners here. He's going to go up the inside of him, and they're going to go side by side, as we got to kind of wait and try to get a good run to the inside there of Sainz, as Butler's without DRS is going to be a sitting duck, and we're going to go 3 wide into turn 1, and we lock up and we go way wide there, as Sainz gets past us as well as Butler there, but Butler does not have DRS, as we now kind of move Sainz away from us a little bit, as we are able to go around the outside of Sainz this time without getting run off the road, as we are into P4, as we are now on lap 9, as Perez, who managed to get away from the group as Sainz and Butler were battling, as we are going to make a really easy pass on him, nothing too hard there, as he was a sitting duck there down the back stretch. Make sure not to go in too deep into the corner there, as we are going to make our pit stop at the end of this lap here, as we have a very interesting time through here, as we lose the back end and use the grass, as we are able to get it slowed down, as you see there, our teammate is also coming in, so for some reason Haas has decided to double stack here for no reason, and I don't think they're going to able the animation to get them out in a good amount of time, as we come out here in the middle of traffic, as Leclerc is battling Russell here, which is not what Leclerc probably wanted, as we come to the inside here, as Leclerc is right now in the middle, as he gets past Russell. We're going to go down his inside and get into P8 as we try to not lose too much time, as we here are back on the podium, as Bottas is yet to pit, but as he come out of the pit, we are so much closer than we were when we left, and he's on hard tires, so he'll be extra slow here, as it's starting to get a little bit darker. with forecast to rain, as Raikkonen is out of the race, but it is forecast to rain at the very end of the race here, as we look around the outside of Bottas and try the same move that we did on Sainz, as we are able to get a good run off. They kind of choke themselves off of there at that corner on the inside there, but as we look here, as it looks like Raikkonen just lost drive there, as looks like a mechanical issue, but as it's starting to rain the last 2 laps here, as Lewis Hamilton will win the Austrian Grand Prix, as Bottas has managed to keep along with us with DRS as we finish second.
Nice work, you did well today. I think the boss will be happy with that one.
So, another fantastic victory for the Silver Arrows. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today. So, let's review the drivers' standings. It wasn't the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Some amazing talents out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
It's an interesting one today. On balance, I think I have to call out Alexander Albon. A really solid drive from him today, and one that he and his team should be proud of.
Let's move on to the constructors. Our championship leaders retain their position, but their lead is shrinking. There was also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.